I began working with the Friends of Lebanon Cemetery group back in 2019 and looking for information about my family, which of course led to the York County History Center. Although I'd been there, as a child and maybe a few times in my adult life, I never really took the time to realize the number of resources that are available for families there at the History Center. So it's fairly new for me. The physical work of being able to preserve the legacy of our families takes place at the cemetery itself. But that's such a small portion of what we do through the resources at the History Center. Working in the library, we are able to look for documents with families or of families related to their wills, related to maybe some pictures, historical assets that would be available. And then at times utilizing some of the computer technology to do research there. In addition to that, for my own personal family, I had a blanket that had been handed down from generations where I was informed that this blanket was made by a 3 times great aunt who had been a slave. And, so I was able to take this to the History Center for them to work with me on how to properly preserve that family heirloom. Through word of mouth, the family story was that this blanket crafted by Jane Keenhill of Bamberg, South Carolina, that the remnants of slaves' clothing had been utilized. Taking this to the History Center, wanting information on how to preserve it properly, they also were able to do an analysis for us. And at the end of the day, it turned out that the materials used were from years after slavery had already been abolished. And so from that, is it a correct story that the hands that made this blanket were of someone that previously had been enslaved? Yes, but the materials were later. From that information, started to look and see what type of business and industry there was in Bamberg, and there were several large textile companies that used to go around with the books with swatches of cloth. And that's where we believe the materials came from. We've been able to look at some of the African American women that were involved with the suffrage movement back in the early 1900s. And that information has enabled us then to be able to connect with their families. Many of the families did not know this information. Through the History Center, not only are we learning, but we're being able to tell these stories, share these stories with families, and it's been a wonderful partnership for us. It's different when you have an opportunity to not only learn about people who look like you, but in many cases are actually related to me, and it brings about a completely different story. And I do credit the History Center staff for leading us along the way.